friends. Today we're reading the story of Harold and the Purple Crayon. Before we start, let's see if we can figure out what the first letter in Harold's name is. Say Harold. Harold. What sound do we hear at the beginning? Harold. Kind of like hippo or horse. What letter makes the sound? You got it. It's letter H. Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. And look what he brought with him! He brought a purple crayon. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a night walk, so he drew a moon. Harold needed something to walk on. What did he draw here? Looks like the sidewalk. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path, so he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. Have you ever noticed that? If you walk outside at nighttime, you can't walk away from the moon. It's always with you. This shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. Let's count how many apples are on this tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 apples. Wow, that's a lot of apples. Let's count how many apples are on the big tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 apples on the big tree. So Harold put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. But it was a terribly frightening dragon. I think even Harold's scared of the dragon. It did. It even frightened Harold, and he backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. What's he going to draw if his hand is shaking? It's not going to be a straight line. Suddenly, he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. He drew waves by accident. Now, how is he going to get out of the ocean? What could he draw to save himself? He came up thinking fast, and in no time, Harold was climbing aboard a little boat. So he drew himself a boat so he could float on the water. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. What's different about the ocean line and the land line? It looks like the ocean line is curved and bumpy like waves. The line for the land is pretty straight. He stepped ashore onto the beach. He was wondering where he was. Where do you think he is? The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics, well, it made him very hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but they were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. Oh my goodness, 9 pies? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's right, there are 9 pies. I wonder what kind they are. Blueberry? Pumpkin? What do you think? When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He couldn't eat all the pies by himself, but he did eat a lot. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up, and off he went, looking for a hill to climb. What sound do we hear at the beginning of hill? H! Harold was looking to see where the hill was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see. So he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be going to bed now. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. I wonder if he made it big enough. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. What can Harold draw to fall on? But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a big balloon and he grabbed on. Whew, good thinking, Harold. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. Do you know what kind of balloon this is now? It's called a hot air balloon. And guess what? Hot. Hot starts with H too. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. House starts with H too. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. But none of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. In fact, he made a big building full of windows. That looks like a big building, like a tower. He made lots of buildings full of windows. Some of the buildings have lots of little windows. Some of the buildings just have big windows with 2 pieces of glass in each. Some have really tiny windows over back there. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was Harold's window. He couldn't think where it might be. Where should it be? He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. And then suddenly Harold remembered something. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it and he drew the covers up. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story, friends. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.